At the end of the previous book, both Mike and Norman propose to Hannah. It's a week later, and she still hasn't decided who she'll marry. In fact, she openly resents the men for pressuring her. Like they are the ones who are out of line in this situation. How dare they expect a response after proposing marriage?
Argo Funk Book Review, Argo Funk Book Review.
This review was commissioned through Patreon. Mike and Norman have been wandering through town like zombies. Hannah gets a bunch of phone calls from minor characters begging her to end the love triangle and just pick someone already. She officially decides not to decide. Yes, she ignores their proposals and goes back to dating both men at the same time. The men are 100% okay with this, which is ridiculous. In real life, both men would dump Hannah immediately after getting that non-answer. I wouldn't be surprised if some readers dumped the series after that cruel bait and switch. As for the fact that Mike cheated on Hannah in the last book, it doesn't get mentioned. I think we're supposed to pretend it never happened. Hannah's friends assure her she did the right thing, which she didn't. Everyone is excited to learn a movie is going to be filmed in town. Oh, wow! Basically, everyone gets a job on the movie set. Mike does security, Michelle is a production assistant, Tracy is so incredibly perfect all the time, so she gets to play the main character as a child in multiple scenes. Because, of course, the movie didn't cast that role until the last week of filming. Mom provides 1950s props for the movie. There's a running joke that Mom doesn't want to admit she remembers being alive in the 50s. I wonder if this book's author feels the same way. In the mandatory cat subplot, Moish gets a role in the film. Moish is wild and misbehaves until the movie people show up. Then he's a perfect little darling the entire time. Hannah is shocked by her cat's personality change. In another subplot, Andrea's husband is on a business trip in Florida. Andrea constantly overreacts to what he does and worries he's having an affair. This is supposed to be funny, but it makes Andrea seem hopelessly stupid and pathetic. Today's victim is Dean Lawrence, the hottest director in Hollywood. He's a total scumbag who flirts with every woman in town, including ones that are underage. Gross. He touches women inappropriately, including Hannah and Lisa, but the only woman who scolds him or fights back is Mom. Mom is my new hero. Connor is Dean's chauffeur, Burke Anson is the male lead, Lynn Larchment is the female lead. Lynn and Hannah were best friends in college, but Hannah mostly ignores her in favor of Ross Barton, the producer. He and Hannah both had huge crushes on each other in college. Now he's much more assertive, and he wastes no time in asking Hannah out to dinner in front of the entire town. Uh-oh, does she have a third boyfriend? Ross is nice. He and Hannah act like best friends for the entire book. Nothing romantic happens between them, even though they clearly want to make out with each other. The two of them laugh it off when Hannah gets a series of frantic phone calls from people that are worried Ross is her new boyfriend. They also laugh it off when both Norman and Mike camp out at Hannah's apartment to prevent her from getting into any hanky-panky with Ross. Yes, it's funny that all three guys are there at the same time, but that is creepy stalker behavior on her boyfriend's part. Also, super pathetic considering she refused to marry both of them. Hannah is hired to make daily cherry cheesecakes for Dean. She drops them off at his giant motorhome. Every day he has a different woman inside. Hannah gets recipes when Dean sends her on 2 food-related missions. A woman named Winnie Henderson refuses to let them film in the town park. Dean sends Connor with a bunch of money to convince her. Connor tells Hannah he won't cheat Winnie, but we later learn he purposely lies about the price so he can pocket the difference. Burke gives an awkward TV interview where he makes several jokes about Dean wearing women's clothing. A few days later, Hannah makes a list of all the women she's overheard in Dean's private trailer. This includes her sister Andrea, who was there this morning. I find it super weird that we never got to read that scene. It skipped over, and we hear about it later. Why did they leave that out? Hannah confronts Andrea, who says nothing happened. Dean was trying to seduce her with false promises of making her a movie star. The movie has a suicide scene. Mike double checks to make sure the gun is a prop that can't hurt anyone. When they film the scene, Burke acts so badly, Dean acts out the role for him. The culprit swapped the fake gun for a real gun. Dean dies when he pulls the trigger. Hannah discusses the case with Mike. He tells her not to investigate on her own. Hannah goes, "Ha ha! I won't investigate on my own. I'll investigate with my friends." She later claims, "I'm not investigating. I'm snooping. Hee hee hee." So once again, she thinks dumb wordplay gives her free rein to interfere in an active police investigation. Hannah brings up the possibility that Burke is the intended target. After all, he's the one who is supposed to be in the scene. Everybody ignores this possibility for the rest of the book. I thought their deliberate ignoring of this angle was a culprit giveaway. After all, there's only one person who would know ahead of time that Burke would mess up the scene and Dean would stand in for him. The fact that the book doesn't even try to consider other possibilities means that one person must be the culprit. Hannah suspects Winnie. She and Andrea break into Winnie's barn, where they have humorous misadventures avoiding her bowl. Michelle and Hannah search Dean's trailer, and again there's fun with animals, as a skunk is inside. They discover Connor has a criminal background and was just fired by Dean, but he's quickly cleared of suspicion because he has another job. Winnie agrees to let them film in the park as long as they don't interfere with the statue her brother made. She agrees to let them raise and lower the statue with a crane. Winnie freaks out when they touch the statue's base. That's because it hides a dead body. Winnie confesses she murdered her second husband when he started beating her the same night she gave birth. Her brother covered up the entire thing. Mike assures Winnie it was justified self-defense and no one will press charges. Mom gets a new computer and starts working on a secret project. She also starts talking in Regency terms. I suspect Mom is writing a Regency romance novel. Hannah spends a full chapter dancing around the issue. I have no idea why Hannah doesn't ask her mom directly what her project is. What's the worst that could happen? Mom says no, and Hannah moves on with her life. At the wrap party, Andrea reads a gossip magazine which says Dean purposely trashed Burke's reputation so Burke will never get another acting job. Hannah realizes Burke is the culprit. He acted badly on purpose the day of the murder. Because he's an actor, he can do that. Mom conveniently comes in at this point to say Burke bought her sewing machine for $1,000, which really should have raised some red flags. The prop gun is hidden inside. Burke pretends to be innocent at first, but he gives himself away by revealing he knows the gun's location. I have to say, I found this culprit confrontation to be a little disappointing. It's low stakes, because Mike is there the whole time, and the culprit's not even trying to be mean or intimidating. Definitely not as exciting as the standard culprit tries to kill Hannah scene. Ross leaves town, and we set up for the next book. Mom signed everyone up for roles in the county fair. Michelle's in a beauty contest, Andrea's in a mother-daughter contest, and Hannah is in a dunking booth. The end. Post-book follow-up. The book comes with a 2-page prologue. It was a good idea to have the murder in the prologue, because the actual murder happens 200 pages into the book. This is a trend I've noticed. The murder keeps happening later and later in these books. It's very different from the early books, where the murder happens at the start, and there's a second murder about halfway through. It's like the author doesn't want to write murder mysteries anymore. She just wants to write about Hannah's small-town adventures, so she puts off the murder as long as possible. Chapter 4 is a cooking chapter, where Hannah and Edna cook a recipe together. The cooking is described step by step, with many comments from Edna and Hannah. I did not like this at all. It was boring to have multiple pages of two characters following a recipe. The recipe itself is at the end of the chapter, meaning readers have to read the same recipe twice in a row. At one point, Norman reminds Hannah that the Seattle police have a letter with top secret information that would embarrass his mother. Huh, I forgot about that. The letter doesn't get mentioned outside of this scene, so if it doesn't come up in the next book, I expect I'll forget about it again. This book had many jokes where someone makes a purposely misleading statement in order to provide a humorous clarification. Like, Connor says he's a stockbroker when he's selling cows, or Hannah uses the word skunk to refer to the victim. I just noticed the book was repeating the same joke format over and over again. Overall, I disliked this book more than the previous ones. It took too long to get to the murder investigation, and it did not deliver an end to the love triangle like it promised. Biggest disappointment of the entire book in the first 10 pages. The murder investigation was a little too unfocused, and since I solved the mystery about 50 pages before Hannah did, I got rather bored near the end. Throw in the underwhelming culprit confrontation, and yes, I think it's safe to say this was my least favorite book of the series so far. I give Hannah Swensen number 8, Cherry Cheesecake Murder, a 3 out of 10.